Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. If you're new here, my name is Jody and you've just found the home of affordable watch content on YouTube. If that sounds like something you'd enjoy, I would enjoy it if you would subscribe to the channel by hitting the big button with the word subscribe on it. And welcome today to the video they said couldn't be made, the top 10 best watches under $50 US. Actually, they didn't say that, I just made it up, but you get my point. Many people would argue against there being any decent watches under 50 bucks, but of course there are loads of them, and there's a huge variety of them as well. This list contains dive watches, field watches, dress watches, and chronographs, a bit of everything as usual. Now, you know my favorite affordable watch brand is Casio. You can basically pick any Casio you like under 50 bucks and it gets my personal recommendation, but I have included 4 of the very best on the list today. Plus, there is a bonus 11th watch if you can find an extra 10 bucks. I think it's worth it. By the way, the specs on number 11 are just ridiculous. I'll leave links to all 11 watches that I show in the order that I show them in the description of the video. Use them as your starting point, but of course, dig around, get the best deals you possibly can for wherever you are in the world. Let's get on with it. And let's start with a little watch that I bought last November and I have been really impressed with. It's an AliExpress watch, it's a Miltado, and it comes in unbelievably at under 40 bucks. They call it the Miltado ML05 and it gives 1960s field watch vibes for a fraction of the price of anything else with this look. It comes with a period correct 38mm case, decent lume on the dial and hands, which is not something you see too often for this money, and that is a piece of double dome sapphire crystal covering the dial. It is excellent crystal. The watch has 100 meters of claimed water resistance, it features a screw down crown, and it comes with a number of different dial and strap combination options. It does look, however, like they don't have an awful lot of stock at the moment. No wonder at these prices, but you should be able to pick up a piece in your chosen color version. As a bonus, the NATO strap is alright as well. Now, it's powered by a Seiko VH31 Mecha Quartz movement, so it's battery powered, but it ticks 4 times per second so that it looks like a mechanical watch rather than a quartz watch. Overall, I was just amazed by this one when I bought it, and I continue to be impressed. I'm sure that if you bought one, you would be impressed too. All right, number 2, if I'm going to show you 4 Casios, then I may as well spread them evenly across the video. Let's start with one of my very favorites. If you want an affordable, legible, reliable wristwatch with all the features you need and none of the features you don't need, do yourself a favor, buy a Casio W217H. This is a great watch. The story is that it was supposed to be the F91 replacement, but they never quite got around to discontinuing the F91. I know that watch gets all the plaudits, but this watch is superior in every single way. It's a wearable size for a fully grown adult male like myself. It has 50 meters of water resistance, a decent LED to illuminate the dial. It has a countdown timer, a stopwatch, an alarm, weighs next to nothing, and is therefore super comfortable. And unlike a lot of digital watches, it also has good sized numerals, so it's nice and easy to read. And the best part is, it's under $17. Stick a 50-cent battery in it every 3 years and you've got yourself a decade's worth of accurate and reliable timekeeping for well under $20. All right, next up, I'm going to take a bit of a liberty, no surprises there. I'm going to recommend a whole bunch of watches that fall under one umbrella. That umbrella is Pagani Chronograph. Pagani Design sells 5 or 6 really good Seiko Mecha Quartz power chronographs that you can pick up these days for $50. Sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. Now, some of them are one-for-one copies of expensive Swiss watches such as the Omega Speedmaster and the Rolex Paul Newman Daytona, but some of them are actually original designs. All of them feature stainless steel cases and sapphire crystals covering the dial, and all of them are just ridiculous value for money at these prices. Take your pick really. I have reviewed a bunch of them in the past. I would strongly suggest considering their Speedy look-alike. It's a great watch. Their Paul Newman look-alike, their Royal Oak style chrono that I dubbed the Pagani, and also what I refer to as their helmet. This one is a bit more of a kind of generic 70s style rather than being a one-for-one of anything specific. Now obviously they're quartz, but at this price you want quartz, you really don't want a mechanical chronograph. And Seiko's VK movements are great movements. Again, they're accurate, reliable, they're basically maintenance free because you can swap the batteries yourself for $50 with the aid of a $2 tool. Pick the one you like the look of most, they're all great. At number 4, it's Casio number 2, and it's a bit of a legend. It's the MDV106, aka the Casio Duro. Now this is a proper dive watch, not just a dive style watch. It has 200 meters of water resistance, a screw down crown, it has big, clean, easy to read markers and hands, it has a unidirectional rotating dive time bezel, and have a look at that second hand. It hits every single marker, a rarity for quartz in general and affordable quartz in particular. And when I say affordable, I mean affordable. These can be found on Amazon or eBay for $50 US. It's not all roses though. I do have 3 complaints about this one. The loom is poor. The supplied band is pretty awful, so you'll want to get rid of that sooner rather than later. And it's big, it's 44mm with a long lug to lug. Now, that is great if you like that size of watch, but it might be a bit too big for most people. They released a small one a couple of years ago, but it was too small for most people. We are therefore still waiting on that 40 or 41mm Duro, I'm afraid. But if you've got the wrist for this one, buy it with confidence. Alright, next up, it's arguably the most fun watch on today's list, and a watch that proves that cheap doesn't have to mean cheap and nasty, it can sometimes mean cheap and cheerful. It's the Armitron Griffy. These little legends can be picked up on Amazon for as little as $28 if you're not fussed about which colour version you end up with. Now they have LED displays straight out of the early 1970s, but do you know what? Unlike most things that came out of the early 1970s, the build quality on these is actually really good for the money. They have proper metal cases rather than just plastic coated to look like metal. I'm looking at you, by the way, Casio. There is an element of practicality with 50 meters of water resistance, but there is also an element of impracticality because you need 2 hands to operate one of these. You need your non-watch hand to press the button to get the LEDs to light up. Look, if you are young or you're a uni student or something and you've not got a ton of money to throw at this hobby, but you want something that's kind of fun and funky, seriously, have a look at one of these. I think they're great. At number 6, it's another watch in my personal collection. In fact, it's a watch that I have now owned for nearly 20 years, but it's been around for almost 40 years. It is iconic, and I'm not using that word lightly. It's the Casio Square G-Shock, the DW5600. It's an almost 40-year-old design. This watch has remained virtually unchanged since 1987. They have sold millions of these in one form or another, and you get 2 brands here for the price of one. You get Casio, who make amazing affordable watches, and you get G-Shock, a sub-brand synonymous with toughness and durability. This one features everything you need: 200 meters of water resistance, alarm, stopwatch, countdown timer, electroluminescent backlight, time and date, and that's it. You can spend more if you want to and get more features from one of these squares, but in the same case. But there's an argument that this is the purest form of G, this exact watch, and therefore the ultimate form of G. I've been making videos on this channel for nearly a decade now, and I'm delighted to see you can still buy one of these for under a 50. Long may that continue. Next up, it's a watch that only just scrapes onto today's list, but it's a really worthwhile entrant. It's a Bertucci Field watch. I've included these little watches in a bunch of different roundups over the years. That's how good I think they are. And they can be found on Amazon for just under a 50. Again, you've got to be a little bit flexible about the colour if you want one at that price. So make sure you have a look at their website before you purchase, just to ensure you get the best deal. They're simple, legible quartz military issue style watches. Bertucci are an American brand and they've been making these things for 20 years, virtually unchanged, as you can see here. And they have all the specifications that you really need, including a poly resin case, Japanese quartz movement, hardened mineral crystal, 50 meters of water resistance, a screw down crown, and a usable nylon style strap. I believe they now use a 4-year battery, and if you buy them from Bertucci directly, you get get a 3-year warranty. They're not huge at 36mm and they're going to be incredibly light, which you'll either like or not like, but if you can scrape one in for a 50, they're absolutely worth that price. And the fourth and final Casio of our 10 entrants today, which shows you just how good the brand are at this price point, it's the AE1200, aka the Casio Royale. So called because it looks a little bit like a Seiko that Roger Moore wore in Octopussy. Yeah, never really made much sense to me either. But hey, cool name. This one is definitely a little more nerdy than the other 3 Casios I've shown you today, but it does have more features than any of the others as well. I mean, look at all those little LCD markings, surely they have to do something. And they do. There's a tiny world map there denoting the fact that this one is a world timer. You can scroll through 50 plus world cities slowly or 5 world cities quickly if you have the need to. And you know what? That's actually quite useful. I was in America last year and I took one of these with me so I could keep track of the time here in Australia as well as the UK and the States where I was located. This one has 100 meters of water resistance, a 10-year battery and a whole bunch of alarms, countdown timers, etc. and double LED illumination. But because it's a Casio, all of that still costs you less than 25 bucks. Now, I reckon I would have been crucified in the comments section today had I not included at least one Timex on today's list. So here is today's Timex. The reason there aren't more though is because I just don't rate Timex's affordable pieces as highly as I rate Casio's, hence why there are 4 Casios but only one Timex. But the Timex does have one trick up its sleeve that the Casios do not. I'm going to recommend you look at their Expedition range. There are a whole bunch of these in a whole bunch of different colours, all of which you should be able to pick up for comfortably under $50. Now, they are all quartz, they've all got 50 meters of water resistance, and they've all got acrylic crystal covering the dial, so not quite as robust as some of the mineral crystals or sapphire crystals that you'll find elsewhere on the list. But all of these watches have Indiglow. That is Timex's proprietary nightlight system, and frankly it shits on any LED or backlight from any other brand. This therefore is the one to buy if you need to see the time after dark. And finally at number 10, but not quite finally because there is a number 11, what if you just want a really simple, clean, classy looking watch for everyday wear? Suit, shirt and tie, but also something that will look good at the weekends. May I suggest you have a look at the Escapement Time 44GS. That's not what they call it, but it's what I call it because of the case shape. It's very reminiscent of a vintage Grand Seiko. Now, this is another AliExpress watch. You can pick these up for under 50 in a bunch of different colours. Obviously, the creamy white dial, silver dial, blue dial and black dial are the more reserved colour choices, but they also offer green, yellow or pale blue if those colours suit your skin tone or your fashion sense, all for well under 50 bucks. Now, I bought one of these a couple of years ago. I went for the sensible cream version because apart from anything else, I think that was the only one that was available at the time. It's really nice, particularly the handset. The hands are also very Grand Seiko and they look like they belong on a much, much more expensive watch than this one. It's a 40-20, so 40mm in diameter with 20mm lug width. That means you can swap it out for a wide variety of other straps. As you can see here, I did a bit of a strap fashion show in my video. This one has a stainless steel case, flat sapphire crystal covering the dial, and again it has the Seiko VH31 Mecha Quartz, just like the first watch we looked at today, the Miltado. These tick 4 times per second, so they look like a mechanical, but they won't stop ticking if you take them off on a Friday and only put them back on again on a Monday morning. So, well spec, reliable and classy looking for less than $50. Well then, number 11, the Spinal Tap, the bonus, and the watch on my wrist today. I've already warned you that this one blows the budget. It costs a whole $59, but I think it's worth every cent. In fact, it's probably worth at least $150. It is, in my humble opinion, of course, the best value mechanical watch on the planet. It's the Steeldive 1970. Now, this is a modern day lookalike of a discontinued Seiko from the 1960s and 70s, hence the slightly cheeky reference by Steeldive. And it is incredibly feature packed for your $59 and change. Including a stainless steel case back and crown, the full stainless steel bracelet, now with milled clasp and multi-position adjustment, will run you another $6 or $7. It has 200 meters of water resistance, a screw down crown, sapphire crystal, ceramic bezel insert, sorry, I'll correct myself, fully loomed ceramic bezel insert, great loom on the dial and hands here by the way, it won an episode of Loom Wars a couple of years ago, and to cap it all off, a Seiko NH35 automatic movement. Now I wouldn't necessarily recommend a lot of the automatic calibers you can find in watches at this price point, but I wholeheartedly recommend the Seiko. I've reviewed watches costing 10 times this much with the same movement. I mean, there really are no negatives to this watch at this price. It is fairly big and chunky, it weighs about 170 grams on the bracelet, but it wears really well. I've had one of these in my collection for years. If you don't have one already, you should probably have one in yours. So there you have it. Not only can you buy a watch for less than $50, but you can buy any type of watch that you like. Simple everyday digital watches, dive watches, 70s style retro LED watches, plenty of field watches, a bunch of different chronographs, dress watches, and even a world timer if you are a global jet setter on a very tight budget because you spent all your money on flights. Regardless of style, these are all great, fun timepieces you can have for years or even decades. This can be a ferociously expensive hobby, and that's great if you want to spend big bucks, but remember, you don't have to spend a fortune if you don't want to get a great watch on your wrist. Well done for making it all the way to the end of the video. If your budget does extend beyond a 50, why not check out my recommendations at 100 or 300 US dollars instead. Thanks for watching this one. I'll see you again in the next one.